look, the reality is that this decision has been made by the Mayor and TfL purely and utterly on the grounds of public safety. How anyone can even attempt to argue against it, it's just beyond belief. 14,000 incidents. You talk about uninsured, but the driver will have been unlicensed. Nobody will have known anything about it. He could have come out of Wandsworth Prison at 9 o'clock in the morning and been driving an Uber at 10 o'clock under these circumstances. It is the biggest safety scandal in London, certainly this millennia. It is unbelievable. TfL have done the only thing available to them. And what strikes me as absolutely incredible is that Uber thought they would actually get a licence under those circumstances. I mean, it's breathtaking.
What, in a nutshell, would fix it? And I appreciate that that's not necessarily what you or your members would want, but the thing I tell you, you've heard the show, so the knot I'm worrying at this morning is the question, and it is only a question of whether or not Uber would be under some sort of existential threat if it actually closed this loophole, because it can't be that difficult to close it.
No, what it comes down to, James, is they were refused the licence, as you're aware, 2 years ago. They pitched up at the Magistrates' Court in Westminster and promised the magistrate all sorts of things. They had promised to abide by the rules, they had promised to keep the app running, keep the app safe, all of which they have singularly failed to do. And we're aware of the fact, as we said this morning, that 14,000 Londoners were placed in possibly mortal danger. And now they're saying...
It's 14,000 Uber trips in which drivers had uploaded photos of themselves. So to be completely clear about that we don't know how many drivers that would involve. It has found that at least 14,000 Uber trips involved drivers who'd uploaded photos of themselves to the app linked to cars which they were not registered to drive, which means passengers were being picked up by drivers not named or authorised by the company.
No, absolutely, James. So what that means is it could have been more than 14,000.
Yeah, absolutely it does. But no, because it's trips. It could have been one Londoner could have made 7,000 trips. I'm being a bit glib for the point of the argument, but you can't say I can't let you say 14,000 Londoners unless we count every black cab passenger once in a year.
Yeah, well, I think we're getting, we are being pedantic. But look, a number of Londoners, a serious number of Londoners, were placed at risk.
Yes.
Well, they pitched up at a magistrate's court 18 months ago and promised the earth, and they've failed to deliver yet again. This company is basically, is this a correct word? You're the expert. Unregulatable. Unregulatable?
I don't think that's a word, Steve.
Well,
I don't know, though.
What's the alternative?
I don't know, mate. Anyway. Ungovernable? Impossible to regulate. You would claim it was impossible to regulate this company operating in the way that it currently does.
And indeed. And of course, what you've got to remember now is that this is Uber spinning this morning that the mayor's against technology. Absolutely untrue. There are now a plethora of Uber-type apps that are running that are licensed in London. I'm certainly not going to name them. That the mayor has licensed that he's confident are safe. It's this one particular company, their arrogant attitude to regulation, their attitude that we are the biggest. We're basically
and we'll steamroller everybody else. I'll reveal an anecdote after the break that actually you'll find it all too easy to believe. The problem also, Steve, and again, I appreciate this isn't necessarily a priority for you or your members, but there are thousands of perfectly law-abiding Uber drivers out there who will be feeling very bruised this morning and a little bit frightened about their livelihood.
Well, firstly, Uber constantly tell everybody that these drivers are not employed by them. I mean, you're very aware of that. They keep telling everyone they're all self-employed. I mean, I would argue they're very much employed. But there are alternatives out there, as I've said. There are a number, and of course, you mustn't forget that there are a number of well-established minicab companies in London.
Well, they're falling like you're not taking on board my observation. Is that I am here to tell the truth, and the truth is that most Uber drivers are not guilty of the offence that is currently under discussion, which has seen the company essentially told it's going to lose its licence. Most drivers will not be guilty of that.
Absolutely right, James. And all they've got to do is go and work for another company that follows and abides the law and carries the same ethos on regulation that they do.
That seems a reasonable point.
There's plenty of minicab firms out there. There's similar apps to Uber now, and the long-established minicab firms that many of which have still survived are still there. They can go and work for them. They can go and work
with
for them.
With a little bit more transparency, a little bit more perhaps safety. Do you want the good news, Steve McNamara?
Yes, please.
Unregulatable is indeed a word.
I'm going to put this in my diary. I knew a word you'd never. That's the only time that's ever going to happen. I can assure you.